Already we have lost some time. Okay, I will give you a summary of the portion that we finished till now. Okay, I think it may helpful to you. Okay, Kerala, Indian church, history of the Indian church. That begins with the apostolic visit in India, that is the tradition says. Okay, two traditions are there. One says Apostle Thomas came to North India. And the other tradition says Apostle Thomas came to South India, especially in Kerala, in Malabar. These are the two opinions. So we may conclude that in the beginning, Apostle Thomas came to North India in the kingdom of Gonda Forest, one of the northeast king. Then he left to Jerusalem. Then the second time he came to Kranganur or Missouri in AD 52. Even though there is no clear evidence, okay, there is no clear evidence of the arrival of Thomas. And some of the traditions says that Indian church began by the visit of Apostle Bartholomew. Okay, Apostle Bartholomew was the establisher of the church. Another tradition says, whatever it may be, one thing is sure, there was a Christianity, or here existed a Christianity. A group of Christians were here in the first century itself. That is a truth. Maybe there were some people when on the day of Pentecost, there were some Jewish people who came from India, came there or went there from India. They may heard the gospel and they became the Christians. When they reached back to Kerala, they began to preach the gospel. That's why the Indian church may began. Okay, Indian church may begin. That is a possibility. That is a possibility. Anyway, the tradition says, most of the traditions agrees the visit of Apostle Thomas. Okay, so Apostle Thomas came here, especially he went to Missouri. There was a colony of Jewish people were there. So he went there in AD 52. Then he began to preach the gospel. And he establishes different churches in Kerala from north to south. Especially the 7 churches are important one. 7 churches. That was established by Apostle Thomas. Maliyangara, Palur or Palayur, then Kotakav or Kotakayal, it's very near to Paravur. And Chayal, Nilakal, the 4th one, Niranam, Kollam, and Gokkamangalam. That is Pallipuram. And another tradition says that Apostle Thomas, established 7.5 churches. 7.5 churches. It says 7.5 churches. So that half churches half church. That is at Tiruvangod, near Thiruvananthapuram. Now it is in Kanyakumari district. Okay, at that time it was in Kanyakumari district, Kanyakumari, Tiruvangod. Okay, near Thiruvananthapuram. So when I taught this, I told you I don't know what is the history behind the Arappalli or half church. Okay, later I find it out. So it has two opinions. Arappalli. Why did it call Arappalli or half church? It has two opinions. The first opinion, Ara in Malayalam, that doesn't mean only half. Ara has another meaning too. The word Ara has another meaning too. Okay, it's a there is a Dravidian word for king, that is Arasan. Arasan. Arasan is a Dravidian word too that denote to king. And king's palace is known as Aramana. Aramana. That doesn't mean half. Okay. And a banyan tree. Okay, that is known as in Malayalam, it is known as Arayal. Arayal. So Ara not only means half, but there are many other meanings too. So the meaning of Arappalli means it means that it was constructed and maintained with the support and patronage of local kings. That is why it is called Arappalli. Okay, Arasans. Okay, means constructed and maintained by the local leaders, Arasans. That is why it is called Arappalli. That is the one opinion. Okay, then the second opinion, half church means Arappalli means half church. You know, St. Thomas established only a cross there in Tiruvangod. Apostle Thomas didn't construct a church there. Instead, he erected only a cross. All other places, Apostle Thomas, erected, constructed churches. But here, he established only a cross. That cross is for 64 families. 64 families converted to Christians. Those who came from Mylapore. Okay, Mylapore. They came to this place, Tiruvangod, and stayed there. For them, Apostle Thomas established a cross there, but later the local kings, built or constructed the church there, and they maintained it. That is the second opinion. Yes. So Apostle Thomas came to India and came to Malabar, especially came to Malabar, and established some churches, as of course, and also he had chosen some of the Brahmins family who was appointed to take in charge of the church or to do the ministry, he appointed 4 Brahmins families who are there in Palayur or Palu. Okay. Those Brahmin family names are, Kalli, Kalliyankava, Shankarapuli, Pagalomata. Okay. Then 4th century. Okay. Up to 4th century, Malabar Christians, that was an independent Christianity, the independent church.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what was the last name of the 4th Brahmin families?
That's Pakalomatta. 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 Pakalomatta.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Up to 4th century, Syria, Indian Christianity, especially the Christianity in Kerala, was independent one. But the 4th century onwards, the Syrian Christianity had got prominence over the Indian Christianity. The Christians from Babylon or Christians from Antioch, Christians from Syria, they had got some prominence over the Indian Christianity. At that time onwards, Indian Christianity or Thomas Christians, St. Thomas Christians began to known as Syrian Christians, especially on the 4th century, the arrival of Nai Thoma from Jerusalem or from Syria. At his arrival there onwards, the Syria, Indian Christianity is began to known as Syrian Christians because the bishops came from Syria. In India, there were no bishops who was consecrated by any other bishop or any other metropolitan or any other church authority. So bishops came from Syria. But there was an Indian administrator, one who is appointed to administrate the church. He is known as Archdeacon. Okay, Archdeacon. Indian authority depends on Archdeacon, and the foreign authority, that was the bishopric, that came from Syria. And 9th century also, another group of Syrians came to India. Okay, we know, yes. Then one of the important incident happened in 1500. That is the arrival of Portuguese people, Portuguese. In 20th May 1498, this is the summary till now, okay? In 20th May 1498, Vasco da Gama reached at Calicut. At that time, here the ruling king was Samorin. Samorin kings were the rulers of Malabar. Okay, when they came, the arrival of the Portuguese is the Indian Christians, Syrian Christians considered as a help, because at that time, the Arab people made many troubles to India, especially that became a trouble to Indian Christianity, because they did not allow to arrive any bishops from Syria. So for a long time, Indian Christianity had no proper authority, or the authority or bishop consecrated by a patriarch or a metropolitan. Okay, at this time, the Portuguese people came to India. Okay, so the Syrian Christians welcomed them with a happy mind. They thought it is they have to get the support to oppose the Arab peoples or Arabs. So they had got a warm welcome, but in the beginning there were no trouble. But later, in 1514, Pope Leo X established the Patroado system. So they wanted to bring every Christian church under the Roman control. Then there began trouble. Okay, so so here at this time in 1514 or 1500 AD, in India there were two churches. Okay, till then there were only one church. That church was known as Syrian Christians. But 1500 onwards, in India, two churches were established. The first one known as the Eastern Syrian Orthodox Church, and the second one known as Roman or Latin Catholic Church. In Syrian Orthodox Church, they used Syrian language, and in Roman Catholic Church, they use the Latin language. Okay, there were a peaceful living in between these people. Then later, due to the Patriarchal system, the Portuguese people tried to bring the Syrian Christians under their control. There arise a trouble. Okay, then something happened in Syria. Okay, Syrian Christianity. Okay, there also a division happened that affected the Indian Christianity. That is also very important thing. Okay, it affected the what will say, the division that happened in Syria affected the Christian church. So we have to learn a brief summary, a brief history of that. It happened in 1551. Okay. At that time, Mar Simeon VI was the bishop of, or no, not bishop, the patriarch of Syria. At the death of Simon VI, as usual, majority of people supported Simeon 7. But a minority of people did not accept or did not agree with Simon 7. Okay, he came from the same family. Or, yes. So the minority of the Syrians supported another person known as John Sulka or Suluka, both spellings I saw. Maybe John Sulka or Suluka. Okay. So in Syria, the Syrian church also divided into two. Okay. Those who supported Simon 7, they were known as Nestorians. And those who supported John Soluka, they were known as Chaldeans. Chaldeans. Okay. So then, so Syrian Christianity in India received, accepted bishops from both these two communities. Okay. And when Portuguese came, then they tried to control the Syrian church. So in 1597, Mar Abraham, who was the leader of the Syrian church, he died in 1597. Before his death, the authority of the Syrian church handed to Archdeacon George. Okay, so the Syrian Christians' authority came in the hands of Archdeacon George. At this time, in Goa, the Portuguese government appointed Alex de Menes. Alexei de Menes. Alexedemenes. Alexei de Menes as the Archbishop of Goa in 1595. Okay. Till then, the last class, till then we studied. Then the rest of the incidents, the rest of the history that we have to learn. Then when Alexei de Menes became the Archbishop of Goa, he has an intention to bring Syrian church under Roman Catholicism. Okay, he determined it, and he was ready to go any extent to bring Syrian Christianity under Pope or under the Roman Catholicism. Therefore, Alexei de Menes in 1598, he visited Kerala. He visited Malabar. He had a special purpose in his mind regarding this visit. And okay, so when he came to India, especially when he came to Kerala, he tried to what will say, he tried to remove the fear that the local kings had about the Portuguese people. Okay, so that he can act here without any trouble or tradition. Okay, any other trouble. So he began to clear the apprehension of the Rajas by means of bribe. He gave bribe to the Rajas or the kings of Kerala. Okay, and also he tried to convince the people about the doctrine of Roman Catholic Church. He tried to impose the doctrine of Roman Catholicism among the Syrian Christians. That was the second aim that was in his mind. Then he tried to teach the people about the evil of Nestorianism. You know, at that time, the Syrian church, a group of Syrian church is known as Nestorian church. They supplied the bishops for the Syrian Christians. So the Syrian Christians were known as Nestorian Christians here. Then Alexander realized that if they follow the Nestorian teaching, it is not possible to bring them under Roman Catholicism. So he began to taught the people about the evil of Nestorianism. Okay, and Rajas and minor rulers were threatened by him. Okay, at first he gave presents or some bribe to the authorities, and he used the threaten also to bring down the authorities under him, so that he can control the Syrian Christianity. Okay. Okay, he used the threaten and he revealed or he told to the rulers that if you had the displeasure of the Portuguese king, it will be a trouble to you. You may lose your authority. The Portuguese people may, defeat you so that they can gain the authority. Such a way, he used threaten to bring the authorities, Indian kings or rajas, behind him. Okay, these are some of the aims of the visit of Alexei Demenes in Malabar or in Kerala. Okay, and the Syrian leader, Syrian bishop Mar Abraham, died. Okay, 2 years after the visit of Alexander the Mar Abraham, died. And there were no ordination ceremony held in Syrian church at that time. So that means after Abraham, there were no proper religious authority in among Syrian church. When Alexander the Archbishop of Goa, took it as an opportunity to bring the Syrian church under him. Means there is no bishop, appropriate bishopric in Syrian church. Only archdeacons were controlled the authority of Syrian church. So he, Alexander ordained 38 men, as the bishops. And the Archdeacon George, he did not agree with it. He tried to protest against this decision. Even though the this protest was there, not only from George and some of the kings and a group of local Syrian Christians, protested against the decision of Govan Archbishop Alexei de Menas. Then Alexei de Menas tried to bring George, Archdeacon George, under his control. Then Alexei de Menas provided George many gifts and tried to bring him, he and his followers, under his control. So but this George in the beginning did not agree with it. So Alexei de Menas tried to call a synod in Kerala, to conduct a synod in Kerala. He decided, the Archbishop of Goa decided to conduct a synod in Kerala. The synod held in June 20 of 1599, at Dimapur. The English people, the Portuguese people used that word for that place, Dimapur. But in Malayalam, it is known as Udayam Peru. Udayam Peru. That was the Malayalam name. So to hold this synod, this Archbishop sent letters to all the churches, and give instruction to read these letters in every churches, and affix this notice or the letters on the church gates. Okay, not only reading in the church, but they have to fix it on the gate of the church, so that any sense every members of the church should be realized or be get aware of this synod. That was the purpose behind it. All priests and deacons, along with 4 laymen from each church, attended the synod, or he invited all the priests and deacons and 4 laymen from each church should be attended at this synod. And he made reform decrees. He carefully prepared the reform decrees. Okay, decrees to bring the local Christians under the control of Roman Catholicism, or under the control of Roman Catholic Church. The synod began in June 20th, 1599 and ended or closed on June 26th of 1599. So a Roman Catholic historian said about this synod in this way. Okay, a fateful date and one of the darkest in the history of the relation between Latins and Orientals. So even a Roman Catholic historian considered this synod, the function of this synod, as a one of the darkest in the history of the relation between Latins and Orientals. Orientals means the Syrian Christians. Okay, these are the decisions, or these are the decrees that has taken in the.
Sir, please mention once again the date. June
26, 1599. On the same month. In June, it began, June 20, it began, and June 26, it ended. The same year, 1599. So these are the decisions that had taken by the people or the representatives, those who attend the synod. The first decision, clear renunciation of Nestorianism. Okay, the first one, clear renunciation of Nestorianism and a statement of the Catholic faith strongly Western in tone. Okay, so they rejected the Nestorianism. That means they rejected the Syrian Christians' belief. Not only that, and they taught or they brought Roman Catholic teachings in Western tone, means even the Syrian Christians should accept the culture of Western culture, not only the Roman Catholic beliefs, but also they have to accept the culture of Western countries or the Portuguese culture. Okay, the second one, a clear renunciation of the patriarch of the Babylon. Okay, second one, a clear renunciation of the patriarch of the Babylon and insistence on the duty of obedience to the Pope. Okay. Babylon and insistence on the duty of obedience to the Pope. Okay. So they rejected the authority of patriarchs of East, Syrian patriarchs, patriarchate. Both Nestorian and Chaldean patriarchate were rejected by them. And they brought only the authority of Pope. Through Pope, the Archbishop of Goa had got the authority over Syrian Church. And the third one, a fairly full explanation of the 7 sacraments. A fairly full explanation of the 7 sacraments of the Roman Catholics, with many detailed provisions, concerning their use and manner of collaboration. So, celebration, not collaboration, celebration. With many detailed provisions concerning their use and manner of celebration. The fourth one, that is arrangement of administration. That is division of the church. Into parishes. Provision of ministers. Feasts and fasts. Feast and fast. Feast means festivals. Fast means the usual fasting system. Okay. Then the fifth one, miscellaneous provisions concerning life and manners. Okay. How to they made or they prepared some miscellaneous provisions that may affect the conduct of the Syrian Christians. For example, relation with non-Christians and superstitious practices, etc. The Syrian Christians live among the Hindu people, or the Muslim community may be there. So the Syrian Christians may participate some of the festivals, or some of the Gentile way of worship. They may be participating. Okay, because they wanted to live peacefully among the Hindus. So these Portuguese people, Alexei de Menes, brought some provisions that control the life and customs, or life and manners of Syrian Christians. Then regarding the doctrinal section, the doctrinal sections, especially those Syrian church especially those on the sacraments. As I told you about the sacraments that are related to Syrian church and Roman Catholicism. What is the difference between? Okay, so in this synod, the Archbishop of Goa make it sure that they have to follow the sacramental system of Roman Catholicism. Thus, the entire Syrian church came under Roman Catholicism. Alexei de Menes, the Archbishop of Goa, succeeded to bring Syrian Christianity under Roman Catholicism. And in 1906, that means 1906, Meneses became the governor of Goa. So he had got political and religious authority. Till his return to Portugal, he continued as his position as governor and archbishop. So he has the right to bring the Syrian church under his control. Okay, even though this is the time, the other European countries also decided to come to India, because the other European countries also realized that if they had a connection with, or the business relation with the Indian people, it may help the growth of their financial situation. The other foreign countries also tried to came to India. Okay, and the Pope who was there in Rome, he realized it. And he also realized that the Portuguese control may lose very soon. The other European countries entered into India, in Kerala. So that may bring an end of the Portuguese authority. The Pope realized it. So the Pope decided to directly involved in mission. The Portuguese, he cannot depend only to Portuguese. He decided directly entered into the mission. Okay, the mission that is related to India. Therefore, Pope Gregory 14, Pope Gregory 14, found a special congregation. Okay, a special congregation that is known as Congregation de Propaganda Fide. Okay, Congregation de Propaganda Fide. For short, it is known as propaganda. In 1622, before one of the Pope made a patriarchal system to bring the churches all over the world under the control of Roman Catholicism. Especially through that system, the Portuguese people or the Portuguese government had got both authority of political and religious authority in India or in Eastern country. The Eastern countries of the Atlantic Ocean, the countries, those who lay in the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, but now Pope realized that if we depend only on these Portuguese people, he may lose the authority, because very soon the authority of Portuguese people may come to an end. Okay, and Alexei de Menes, okay, went back to Portugal, and Francis Rose, okay, Francis Rose, R-O-S, Rose, appointed as the Archbishop of Angamali in 1600. Okay. And he continued till 1624. He changed his office into Cranganur, so that he may come under the Patriarchal system. The Angamali was not under the Patriarchal system, so he changed his office into Cranganur, where which is under, or the place is under the Patriarchal system. Okay, he began to interfere in the administration of the Syrian church too. Okay, before, even Alexei de Menes was the Archbishop of Syria. He brought Syrian Christians under the Roman Catholicism, but he did not interfere in the administration of the Syrian church. Archdeacon George was in charge of the administrative section of the Syrian church. But when Francis Rose came into the charge of Roman Catholicism or appointed as the Archbishop, he began to interfere in the administration of the Syrian church. So the George, who is George? The Archdeacon of Syrian church. Okay. He did not accept it, or he cannot stand it. And he did not agree with the new changes that Francis Rose brought in Syrian church. So Francis Rose appointed the rector of Vaipikota as the administrator instead of George. Okay, so of course, George opposed or worked against this act. So to make George mum, or to bring George silent, in 1618, George and his followers were excommunicated. Okay, at first, he appointed the rector of Vaipikota as the administrator of Syrian Christians. Then he excommunicated George, Archdeacon George, and his followers from the Syrian church. Okay, even it is mentioned that even though he excommunicated George, but just before the deathbed of Francis Rose, he reconciled with George in 1624. So in 1624, Archbishop Francis Rose died. Then the another person, another Stephen Britto, 1624 to 1641. Stephen Britto succeeded Rose. Okay, Francis Rose. And in 1637, Archdeacon George died, and he was succeeded by his nephew Thomas. Or before the death of George, he transferred the authority into the hand of his nephew Thomas. Okay, and also Britto means Stephen Britto, the Archbishop. Britto was succeeded by Francis Gassaria. Okay, 1641 to 59. Okay. So Thomas, the archdeacon, who succeeded George, he wanted to keep the independence of the Syrian church. So the relation between Thomas and Francis Gazaria became worse. Thomas sent letters to Nestorian patriarch and other patriarchs of East. There were many divisions of Christian churches in the eastern part, in Syria and in Africa, in Alexandria. There were a Nestorian church. There were a Coptic church. There were Jacobites church. Okay, different churches were there. So to overcome the pressure of Francis Gazaria over Thomas, Thomas sent letters to different patriarchs of the Eastern churches so that he may get the support from them. He sent letters to Nestorian patriarch and other patriarchs of East, and also the Coptic and Jacobite church. Thomas wanted to receive the bishops from these churches. Archdeacon, that was not the position of bishop. As an archdeacon, he can handle the administration and financial matters of the church. But regarding the spiritual matters, he had no right to interfere. So the Syrian Christians needed bishops from outside India. Unless they cannot overcome the pressure, the decisions that has taken by Francis Gazaria, the Archbishop of Kerala. Okay, especially the Archbishop of Rangan. Okay, well, the Nestorian Patriarch, maybe. Okay, Nestorian Patriarch received this letter and sent a bishop. His name was Ahatullah or Ahatullah. Two pronunciations are there. Anyway, he sent a bishop who is known as Ahatullah. In 2nd August 1652. And he came into Mylapore. He did not came into, Kerala because of the fear of Portuguese people, the fear of Francis Gazaria, the Archbishop, because the Portuguese people did not accept any other appointment of patriarchs, because you know that Demapur or Diamber Synod rejected the authority of other patriarchates. So in fear of Francis Gazaria, this Ahatullah came to Mylapore, not directly to Kranganur or Malabar or Kerala. Instead, he came to Mylapore. Portuguese did not allow him to meet the people. The people means the Syrian Christians. And then a rumor spread there. It is true or not? Still now, it is not sure. But the rumor spread out that Ahatala was drawn into the sea by the Portuguese people. Means the Portuguese people killed the bishop who was sent by Patriarch of the East, the Patriarch of the Syria. Okay. Then, when this news spread among the Syrian Christians, a large number of people gathered together to protest the decision that has taken by the Synod of Diana, or they wanted to make them free from the bondage of a Roman Catholic Church. So the people, a large number of people gathered together in Matancheri, that is in Cochin, on the 3rd of January 1653. They took an oath touching on a stone cross there. The cross made by stone. There was a cross made by stone at Matancheri, and they took an oath. The oath says like this: they would no longer be subject. They would no longer be subject to the Jesuits archbishop. That means the Archbishop Gazaria, Francis Gazaria. As all those
Sir,
who...
could you say 1 second, sir, the oath?
Okay. They would no longer be subject to the Jesuits archbishop. Jesuit archbishop means the Roman Catholic bishop or the Portuguese bishop. The bishop, archbishop appointed by Portuguese people. Okay, that was the oath that he has taken. You know, there were a large number of people gathered there. So it is not possible to reach every people to the cross. Only a few people can stand around the cross and touch the cross. So what did they do? The ropes were tied to the cross. Many ropes were tied to the cross, and the people held the rope and took the oath. You know, by the force of these people, maybe 100,000s of people are gathered together, and all of them carry the rope. And by the force of the people, that cross went into one side. The cross was erected. It was straight cross, but because of the force that was applied on the cross, the cross, bend to one side. There onwards, that cross was known as the Kunan cross, Kunan cross or crooked cross. In Malayalam, Kunan means crooked. Okay. So that decision or that oath taken by the Syrian people is known as the oath of Kunan cross. Okay, the oath of Kunan cross. It happened on 3rd of January 1653. The direct cause behind it was the rumor of the death of Ahatala, Bishop Ahatala. That was the direct cause of this incident. So here happened again a division of the church, a division among the Syrian church. The Roman Catholicism was there. Then because of this Conan Cross oath, in the among the Syrian Christians, there happened a division. That division is like that. Those who returned to the former Syrian rites, okay, the people who took this oath, they went back to their former Syrian rites. And the Syrian Christians who continued in Latin rite. Okay, so among the Syrian church, there happened a division. Some people returned to their former belief, and some other Syrian Christians continued in Latin rite. They continued the relation between relation with the Roman Catholicism, or they keep the relation with the Francis Gassaria. Okay. Okay, then so thus 54 years after the Synod of Diamond, the majority of the Indian Syrian Christians revolted against the Synod decision of Synod. Okay. So our time is almost here. So we have to finish this class here. Okay. On the next class, we continued the history. So here, oath of Kunan Cross, that is an important incident that happened at this time. Okay. And the changes or the changes that happened in the Archbishopric of Portuguese, Archbishop of Portuguese. That was the things that we learned in this class. Especially remember the oath of Conan Cross, the date, and the reason and the division of the Syrian church. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can ask. If you don't have any doubt, then please somebody pray and conclude this class.
ഹല്ലേലൂയ. സ്തോത്രം 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 സ്തോത്രം. മഹാപരിശുദ്ധനും നീതിമാനും നിത്യനുമായ സ്വർഗീയ പിതാവാം ദൈവമേ, തിരുനാമത്തിന് നന്ദിയോടെ സ്തോത്രം ചെയ്യുന്നു, സ്തുതിക്കുന്നു. അനുഗ്രഹീതമായ കർത്താവേ, ദൈവവചന പഠനത്തിനായി നന്ദിയോടെ സ്തോത്രം ചെയ്യുന്നു, സ്തുതിക്കുന്നു. ഈ രാത്രിയിലും ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ദൈവത്തിന്റെ വചനം പഠിക്കുവാൻ, വിശേഷാൽ കർത്താവേ ഇന്ത്യൻ ചർച്ച ഹിസ്റ്ററി പഠിക്കുവാൻ തക്കോണം ഞങ്ങളെ സഹായിച്ച ദൈവസ്നേഹത്തിനായിട്ട് നന്ദിയോടെ സ്തോത്രം ചെയ്യുന്നു, സ്തുതിക്കുന്നു. കഴിഞ്ഞ കാലങ്ങളിൽ കർത്താവെ കേരളത്തിലും ഭാരതത്തിലും ദൈവസഭയുടെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ കാര്യങ്ങളെ പറ്റിയൊക്കെ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വിശദമായി പഠിക്കുവാൻ ദൈവം നൽകിയ അവസരത്തിന് നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. ഞങ്ങൾ പഠിച്ചതും ഗ്രഹിച്ചതും ദൈവനാമഹത്തിനാക്കി തീർക്കണമേ. സുവിശേഷീകരണത്തിന്റെ വ്യാപ്തി കാരണമാക്കണമേ. എല്ലാ നിലയിലും തിരുനാമഹത്വപ്പെടുവാൻ സഹായിക്കണമെന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. നിങ്ങളുടെ സാരനായി കർത്താവിന്റെ ദാസനെ ദൈവകരങ്ങളിൽ ഏൽപ്പിച്ച് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. ശക്തീകരിക്കുകയും ബലപ്പെടുത്തുകയും ചെയ്യണമേ. എല്ലാ നിലയിലും കർത്താവ് മാനിക്കുകയും അനുഗ്രഹിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യണമേ. ശുശ്രൂഷകളെ ആദരിച്ച് അനുഗ്രഹിക്കണമേ. കുടുംബമായി എല്ലാ നിലയിലും അനുഗ്രഹിപ്പാൻ പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. സഹപാഠികളെ എല്ലാവരെയും ഏൽപ്പിക്കുന്നു. ആവശ്യമായ കൃപയും ജ്ഞാനവും ബുദ്ധിയും എല്ലാം എല്ലാവർക്കും നൽകി കൊടുക്കണമേ. ഏറ്റവും അനുഗ്രഹമായി കോഴ്സുകൾ പൂർത്തീകരിപ്പാൻ സഹായിക്കണം. മഹത്വം യേശു ക്രിസ്തുവിനെ പ്രാർത്ഥന കേട്ടതുകൊണ്ട് സ്തോത്രം. യേശു ക്രിസ്തുവിന്റെ നാമത്തിൽ തന്നെ. ആമേൻ. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good night. You are welcome.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Welcome.